All right. Well, welcome everybody to our special event to help Ayelet launch her first book of a trilogy called, well, I'll just say it and hopefully we don't get kicked off anywhere, Fck the Bucket List. And this book, the first one, is Discover the Wonder of You. And we have people who have been part of this process of Ayelet writing the book and giving birth to it. And it's so exciting because a lot of us have had the opportunity to actually read the advanced copies and been able to kind of get a feel for what the book is about, who it's for, and everything else. And so we're inviting everybody, if you're watching, just type in your comment. You need to authorize StreamYard if you're on Facebook or YouTube to be able to use your comment. We can pull it on screen and answer. If you really want to get on camera with us, just send me a message and let me know if you're connected with me or Ayelet, and we'll try and make that happen for you. So I am excited, Ayelet, because I think one of the things that I've learned from you through this whole process, and since you started writing this book, is we can tell by the title, right? You've always said this book isn't for everyone. And I'm just kind of curious if you can kind of kick us off by explaining why that is, and who is it for if it's not for everyone?
Well, thanks, Tim. You're always amazing at bringing us together in conversation, and I'm super excited to have here on screen with me friends Leslie, Flicka, and Catherine, and hope you can jump on as well. This book isn't for everyone. I mean, if you think about it, we've been trained to appeal to everybody. But, from the time we're kids, has everyone here been loved by everybody? We haven't. And so really being able to discern what's for you and what's not for you is really important to me. My friend Bill told me when I launched my first book, Our Journey to Corporate Sanity, and I was all excited and nervous about launching a book to look at work in a more humane way. And he said to me, Ayelet, just chill. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, God has 7.7 billion backup plans. So if you don't do it, someone else will do it, and you can just chill. And after writing that book for business, I decided I was going to write something that I wish I had when I started my journey in 2014. And because there was no book out there that could help guide me through what I was going through. And I decided, well, as Toni Morrison has advised us, that if there's a book out there that you need and it hasn't been birthed yet, then it's your role to write it. So I did. And I want to be very honest the way that I am not for everyone, and these books are not for everyone. If you really love the way the world is today, or you don't like the way the world is today and you want to fight and argue about it, the book's not for you. The book is really for pioneers. The book is for people who are willing to do their inner work and really see where we are and talk about what's possible. It's not for the historians. It's not for the fighting of where we've come from. It's really about thanking our ancestors for bringing us here, but realizing that while there's a lot of theories, ideologies, and beliefs about who created us, who created the earth, who created the sun, we don't know for sure. But we do know who created taxation. We know who created the military, who created government and education. And if we're such powerful creators and we could create all these systems that are right now breaking down, then we are ready to step into our work and discover the wonder of us. The thing for me is that I love to give this analogy, and I'm sure Leslie will resonate with this, of a home. So let's say you're living in a home and you're lucky enough to have a home, because not everybody is, and something's wrong. You want to build a second story and a third story and a fourth story to the house. But when you go down deep and you look at the foundation of the house, you see that it's rotting. There are termites and rats and mold and asbestos and everything you can imagine. And so this is the state of the world today. Most of the systems we have are falling apart. They're decaying. And it's time for the pioneers. It's time for the people that these books resonate with. It's time for the adventurers who want to trek into the unknown, and those of us who want to trust our hearts versus giving our power away to people and systems that don't really care about us. So it is not for everyone, but hopefully if you're here watching, it's for you. And the cool thing is you can download the book off my website right now, the first part of the book, and you can really see if it's for you or if it's not for you. And then if you're interested, you can purchase it. So I'm giving people different options because my goal and my mission is to provide medicine for the soul about what's possible in our world, and to shine a light on all the people doing incredible things in the world that you don't find in the mainstream news. All the people that are creating new systems, all the people that are really trusting their heart to say, okay, enough. It's time for us to really live in joy and play.
Ayelet, I have a question. So Tim mentioned that this began in 2014. Could you tell us what was the deciding event that made you decide you needed to write the book that you couldn't find on the shelves? And once that inspiration came, where did the title come from?
Sure, it's a great question because the title I've had since like before 2014, but I wasn't brave and courageous enough to come out with it. And when I took a trip I never thought I would take to the Amazon rainforest in Ecuador, I got a message that my role was really to help us shift and transition. And I started with what I knew best, which was business. And that's why I wrote the first book with amazing stories about conscious leaders in the world who are doing amazing things. But I didn't have the courage to really become as vulnerable as I am with this book and to tell the story. And I think for me, we were, I was given this manual of success. I was told, you go to school, you get an education, you get married, you move up in your business, you're successful, you have lots of things that people can admire and people can think that, how well you're doing. And as I got older and I started ticking everything off the list I was given, with a lot of failures along the way, it wasn't all smooth sailing. I was like, wait a second, whose manual is this? I remember being in school in a sociology class when I was in grade 11 and learning about societal norms. And I was just like, this is so bizarre. I don't understand why we're conforming, why we're complying in the way that we are. And a lot of different situations. Leslie was in an industry association that I was leading, and we had so much politics and so much craziness with egos and people trying to take over and put people down. And I thought, wow, there is another way. There must be another way. And so when I started the book in last November, when I had the first draft, I got a lot of feedback from people that it has a lot of information. And it was kind of funny because I wrote it as 3 legs of a journey. And the book is really a journey. There are no chapters, they're just expeditions. And I realized that, it was a trilogy that I was writing. And a lot of what it came from, one of my co-authors was the universe, because I got downloaded a lot of universal knowledge, words and codes that were entrusted to me to help us really navigate these crazy times. And I think Fck, when I look back at it, because you don't really know when you're going through it, is that these books were meant to be born for 2020. And it's no coincidence that the second book about trekking into the unknown is going to be launched in 2021, in January 2021. And so I'm just trusting universal guidance here and going off the manual of success, because, somebody asked me recently, like, how are you going to measure success of the book? And I'm like, if it helps someone, then it's successful. It's not about, it's no longer about me. I have nothing left to prove in my life. It's about really stepping out and figuring out, how do we come together? How do we get to unity, not conformity? How do we create things together? Because we don't know how. We even though we have lots of books about leadership, one of my key messages in these books is that leadership is not outside ourselves. And that's why it's important to start this journey. And especially, and it's not even for a certain age group. There are young people who have really resonated with the book, and there are older people who really resonated. And they said, this book is like binoculars for my soul. And I guess for me, I wasn't ready until right now to put my soul out into the world for people to see. And what I hope is that it's a co-creation and a journey of all of us together. Like, I hope we continue having these conversations once people read the book or the books, and we could talk about how we come together and how we create a healthy life for ourselves. Again, someone can just read the book and create a healthy life for themselves, know what's healthy and toxic for them, or they can decide that they want to create the next level of business or schooling. And there are already amazing people that are doing these things in the world. We just never hear about them.
Ayelet, I have a question. You were talking about the book resonating with young people and older people alike. And I'd love to understand your thoughts in terms of the young people who are questioning everything. And I've got 2 teenage daughters at home, so I know they question everything at a macro and micro level. But I feel like they're more in tune, and they seem to get things more, and that the rest of us are learning.
It's such an interesting question, and it brings me back to my career in technology, because when I stepped out of working in the developed world, when I was working in tech, and I started working in the developing world, I saw the opportunity more in the developing world because they weren't tied down to legacy systems. We could really move things faster because we didn't have all these systems that were just keeping us trapped. And I think in terms of age, there's a lot of children being born right now and getting into their teenage and whatever years. I don't even know if we're going to college anymore in 2020. But there's a lot of kids that are coming that are asking different questions, and they're demanding an answer. They'll like ask, why do we eat cows and not zebras? If you're 5 or 6 years old, these are questions that children are asking right now. And if you say that's just the way it is, they're like, but why? They're not accepting what we accepted from our ancestors, that when they said this is the way it is, it is. And so the whole question of authority and control is being put into light right now, because the kids are wanting real answers. They don't want. And I don't think, I love technology when it's used in a healthy way. And one thing the books help us see, and part of my journey was that, we've created all these notions of right and wrong, appropriate, inappropriate, good and bad. And many of those were created for the lowest common denominator in society. And I love to tell the story of a little girl, this was before the pandemic, who went to a food court with her parents. Her parents always told her to tell the truth, and they ingrained in her to tell the truth. And so they're sitting in this busy food court, and she yells out, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, that woman has a mustache." And the parents are absolutely embarrassed and trying to shut her down and saying, no, you can't say that. And there goes the manual of telling the truth. And with the changes that we're seeing in the world right now, how much more we're connected. I mean, I love the fact that we're having this conversation, and, you know, we didn't prepare. We didn't have a list of questions. We just came out. And if I don't know an answer to a question, I'll say I don't know. And that's the thing and what can we create from it because we don't know? Rather than being the authoritative, all-knowing source. I mean, if 2020 has shown us anything, is that no one knows much of anything. Because we had since March now to really understand how to make things different. And we haven't. And so it's time for us, and I'm so excited by the younger generation, to take our power back. And that's, I think, the big thing for me is I hope that this body of work helps people take our power back.
I have a question. It's you touched on it a little bit in your answer to Priya, and I've always been curious about how your travels to more developing areas of the world have influenced you and the book. If you could just expand on that, I'd be really pleased to hear.
Sure, thanks, Leslie. It's foundational for me. Like I feel like I'm part of the world. I don't feel like even though, you know, I can have 4 citizenships, I only have 2 right now. I feel like I'm part of the world, and I feel really blessed to have had a corporate job that took me around the world, and especially took me to Africa and Russia and Asia and just everywhere. I mean, I've been to over 100 countries, which was a bit insane because I used to fly 300,000 miles a year. And I think I'm very proud to say that now with the pandemic, I don't think I will reach my 2 million miles. I was a 1 million miler. I don't think I'm very close to the 2 million miles, but I doubt I'll do that much flying in the future. But it was amazing to be able to really understand things from the front lines. I was the Chief Inclusion and Diversity Officer for Cisco in emerging markets for a year. And it was eye-opening experience because I would come to the office in Africa and they would ask me questions that no one would ask back in San Francisco. And so I learned firsthand all the different things that were happening. And my dear friend and colleague in Nairobi, Hital Miraj, who I mentioned in the book, who runs the Cisco Academy there, opened my eyes to the world. She won the Usher New Look Foundation Award for Youth Leadership. And when she came back, she decided she wasn't doing enough and started, and I helped her with this, started a group of kids in Kibera, which is the 2nd largest slum in the world, to really do community work. And I would come into the office in San Francisco on a Saturday if I was home, and I would turn on our telepresence at 5 a.m. and there would be a group of 20 to 30 kids on the other side of the world, and I would show them how to use technology to have a voice. And we came up with a slogan is that when you have a choice, you have a voice. And I learned that technology, social media is not evil. It's us people and how we use it, whether we use it for a healthy purpose or a toxic purpose. That's what it is. Because right now I love technology because I get to visit with everybody here. And so it opened my eyes to what's possible. I mean, I went to a place where girls were taken off the street. They would sell their bodies for $1 or a Diet Coke. And we taught them how to use technology. We taught them how to repair computers. And I saw, one of them who actually had AIDS. I mean, she gave me the biggest hug. And we taught her how to film and make videos. And it was incredible. And when we use technology for healthy things, it really opens us up. And then I saw that, around the world, wherever we were all the same. That's the thing I learned more. You know, the cultures, the rituals were different. But when I would bring girls together from Latin America and Africa and Canada and the United States together, it was incredible to see how they, after they got through the shyness, they would start talking about boys or their bodies. And, you know, we're more than same than different. And then on the business side, you know, I was very much the only woman in many circumstances. And I learned a lot from that situation as well, because most of my jobs were on the business side and not, you know, I wasn't the marketing person or the HR person, or I was like a business equivalent to a lot of people. And so it allowed me to see also what's possible in the world and to really turn problems into opportunities and to understand. There's in the third book, I share a lot about Africa, and you know, that Maguette Wade, who's the CEO of Skin is Skin, opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, in her village, Tom's was not a good idea because it put the local shoemakers out of business. And so what she taught me was a lot of the young people in Africa, or the older people, they want job creation. They don't want charity. They don't want all these things, somebody to tell them, here's a stove and this is what you should do with your life. And this is part of what I'm trying to bring to the world through these books, is the ability for us to really be able to understand who we are, why we're here, why we were born for this time, and what we can create. And so being a citizen of the world is just a blessing to me. Did I answer your question, Leslie, or did you have something else in mind?
I have a question, Ayelet. Could you speak to the to being authentic and how that can be nurtured, and we can allow that to emerge in ourselves and in our societies and our culture? It seems to me that there are so many masks that are being worn today, and now that I understand that what you're referring to as a bucket list is really the manual for how people are assuming they need to be, and that's hence the directive in front of that. So being authentic, and number two, how do you suggest someone who has no clue even what that part is in the discovery of that authenticity? Because many times it's just, you know, it is a total blur. It is a fog of what is the authentic me. Many people have no clue.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is because you're peeling off all the layers of what you were told you were supposed to be. And you know, even culturally, there are things that you're expected to be in specific cultures. And for me, I've never had a bucket list. I'm not like, usually when I write a list, I never look at it again. And so for me, it's been really interesting to understand. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a bucket list. I'm just asking you whether the things that are on your bucket list are yours. Do you really want to go to Paris, or is it something that you're expected to do in part of your life? You know, somebody put together the wonders of the world, but no one has looked inside yourself and knows what the wonder of you is. I think the biggest skill we need for authenticity is to question everything. You know, I mean, our ability to question, and this is where Priya's question before about her daughters and the younger generation comes in, is that we were taught not to question. And so that level of authenticity, I mean, it's really weird to me, because to be human means to feel emotions. There's not one person in the world who has not had some level of trauma or wounding. Every single person, you know, we might put on our masks to mask that, but every single one of us has had some level of wounding in our lives. And we have sadness, we have grief, we have joy, we have happiness, but somehow there's a whole industry trying to tell us to be happy all the time, which is unnatural. And so being authentic, I mean, we have people teaching us how to be vulnerable. And, you know, it's vulnerable is just really understanding who you are and why you're here. And, you know, I looked at the numbers, I don't remember them offhand, but I looked at the beauty industry. The beauty industry is like a huge, I can't remember if it was over $500 billion. And have we even thought about the fact that unless we look in the mirror, unless we're on video, or unless we see the reflection of us in a glass, we can't see ourselves. And so we're making us our external selves beautiful for others, not for us. You know, often it makes us feel better, but someone's telling us this is how you do whatever. I don't know, because I'm not a girly girl, but you know, there's a whole industry out there that tells you how to be beautiful. And what I'm saying is there's beauty within us, and there's that ability to connect with ourselves. And when I started my journey, people would say, oh, you're doing your inner work. And I didn't have a clue what they were talking about. It was like there was this like secret society of conversations and words that were being used that I wasn't familiar with. And as I started to go through my journey and to question everything, I started to we're here to experiment. I mean, I love Tim's now. We haven't used StreamYard before, and Tim's experimenting with us, and nobody's freaking out. We're all being our authentic self. And it's pretty remarkable to do it, but we haven't been given the permission from outside of ourselves. And so the question is, when do we give ourselves permission? When do we allow ourselves to really say, hey, fuck it, or whatever word you want to use? Facebook hasn't thrown me out yet. But whatever, I'm not trying to offend anybody by the words or the things, but that's the authentic me, is to say enough. And what's possible? What can we go out in the world and create? Because we are these incredible, powerful creators. Like Flicka, you know, when I met you, it was just absolutely amazing. Your ability to bring sound into the world. You know, you're a former opera singer, and I met you through your authentic self by the art that you create. And that touched me, and I continue like to fall asleep with your music because we're healing each other, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to support each other. And it's an amazing thing. And, you know, both Leslie and Priya, I met from a former life. I don't, you know, and their authenticity of who they are and how they stand in their power is just amazing to me. And that's what I want the world to see, is that we're real. You know, Tim and I have done a lot together over the years, and, you know, being real and raw, it to me is what's authentic.
I attend a ton of conferences.
I want to
know that.
bring up
sorry. Oh, sorry, Leslie. I was just saying the one thing that I keep thinking is that I'm hearing so much more about, instead of leading with knowledge and information, that the future is about leading with curiosity. And I think that's a big opportunity right now, that we don't know what's going to happen. We're all in this, you know, zone where we don't know what's next. But by leading with curiosity and what's possible, it makes you so much more positive.
And real, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, it's mostly been like the source of knowledge, the expert in the front of the room, the authority figure, the know-it-all. I mean, I want to be doing more events or more gatherings. And that's what I'd love. You know, I can't, I'm not a good multitasker, so I'm not able to read all the comments, but I'd love, we're going to have another session next week and another one the following week. And so I'd love people to come in on a conversation, especially if you start experiencing the book. I want to talk about what's in it. I want to talk about what resonates. I want to talk about how we can be helpful for each other, because it takes a village, and we forgot what a village is.
So I had a question, Ayelet, and it kind of was, I was thinking of it before Milo put up his comment, and because he's talking about running. And, you know, the thing that I have always struggled with is, you know, this is a very personal journey. And sometimes it can feel very alone. It can be scary. It can be uncomfortable. And I love the fact that Milo brought up the difference between, you know, the givers and the takers in the world. And, you know, I'd love your thoughts on like how the power of community plays into this.
So this is and hi Milo, good to have you here. And I think we started working together on communities a long time ago. But I think we have to rewrite, and not rewrite. I think we have to write new stories, not even rewrite or reimagine. We need to imagine new stories. Again, knowing what's healthy or toxic when it comes to the beliefs and ideas that you put in your mind, when it comes to the people you put in your heart, and the products and services that you consume in your body or on your body is really important. And really understanding what's healthy and toxic for you will help you more, I think, than what's good or bad or right or wrong or appropriate or inappropriate. When you start discerning between what's healthy and toxic for you. And the givers and the takers are roles and stories, just like the victims and the villains, that have been written until today in our history. And I have a personal problem, and I question the whole notion of giving back, and the whole notion of the fact, like, who are we that we need to give anything back? What did we take? And so we have to write these new stories around community, because we don't know how to support each other. We don't know, you know, I moved to nature to live in the middle of a rainforest in 2016, and I was always a city girl. And I realized that loneliness for me was a man-made system, because how could I be lonely when there's so much going outside? I mean, today I saw a natural pool of water and the birds bathing in it. And I was just so excited to see it. The other day I went to do laundry, and I saw a bald eagle looking straight at me. And so there's like all these surprises about all these constructs that we created. And so when you realize that you are part of nature and you are not separate from nature, and that this whole notion of going to detox in nature is like detoxing inside yourself. We need that balance back between ourselves, and the givers and the takers are like the villains and the victims for me. These are stories that we created and that we need to step out from. And this is why the book isn't for everybody. This is why it's really about for the people that are willing to step out of all these stories that we're told, which isn't easy, which Fck was talking about earlier, and really writing healthier stories for yourself. For yourself. Forget about saving the world or making the world better. We've already thrown billions of lives, billions of dollars, pounds, whatever currency you want, billions of efforts at trying to save this world. But if you remember the analogy of this house, are you going to build a second story and a third story and a fourth story when the foundation is rotting? Or are you going to go to the root cause and say, what is my life worth? And how am I going to live my life in a way that resonates with me? And so there will always be givers and takers. I mean, it's part of the story. And I've walked away from people think I'm crazy. Well, I am crazy, but a lot of people have told me that I'm crazy from walking away from certain projects or certain jobs or certain people. But when I see that something is toxic for me, I don't stay. I go, okay, this is a life lesson I'm supposed to learn, and it's coming here for a reason. And I learn as much as I can, and then I kind of go, okay, let's go play. What's next? So I want to live in a world where we don't have givers and takers. I want us to really look at this notion of giving back and say, what are we giving every day? What are we receiving? Tim really opened my eyes to the fact that he did 360 days of giving a couple of years ago, where he gave something away every year. And it was amazing to follow him doing this, because what I learned from him is that we don't necessarily know how to receive. And so there's a whole balance and harmony that, to really get us anchored in what's possible.
See, Ayelet, I think you have hit on something. I mean, it's really profound, honey, in that the world really is a reflection of our own inner environment. So we carry the world around in our own heart. So if there is no giving or receiving within ourselves to ourselves, it will always look like there's lack in the world. And that's really the only place that we can begin, is within ourselves. And it's so much easier to see the problems outside ourselves and try to go fix those, rather than to say, wait a minute, let me sit down here for a second and really look at what I'm doing. So yay, you, courageous woman, warrior woman, for putting it out there and say the work is inner work, if you want to call it work, but or adventure, whatever work kind of brings to mind, struggle. It's no struggle, because really what you're doing is uncovering and unleashing this incredible power within each of us as we really turn our hearts toward ourselves and love ourselves. And then it's just like flow. So it's beautiful what you're giving people who are ready to hear it, Ayelet. And I'm so excited for you and for what is going to happen as you this initiative goes out in waves, and we see people responding and become more loving, because really that's the bottom line right there.
Well, I'm receiving what you just said. Thank you. It's I've got chills. And I think for me, it's all about self-awareness and self-love. And we got confused with narcissism and self-love, and our ability to really love ourselves. Because when we love ourselves, we become great parents, great partners, great everything. Whatever role we play in society, when we love ourselves and we deal with those limiting beliefs in our mind that have been planted inside of us. And it's funny, in the second book for the adventurer, there's an expedition about what are we fighting for? Why are we fighting? Anytime, this is what I learned in the Amazon rainforest by the Ashwar tribe, is that anytime there's a division and separation, whether it's within ourselves, if you look at business today, so many departments fighting each other. And not coming together with that shared purpose of knowing why they're in business. So many people in relationships fighting each other. I remember I met this driver, and he was asking me for advice, and I just asked him questions, and he was like, I'm having challenges with my wife. Can you help me? And I'm like, why'd you marry her? And he says, because I love her. And I said, so why are you fighting with her? Like, because it's in my culture to be right. I'm like, and what does that give you? You're right. Okay. We all agree that you're right. Now what? Why are you in this relationship? What is it showing to your children? And so it's time for us to tap into our courage and our bravery. The first memory of my life is war. War broke out in my country when I was 3.5 years old. And if the other side would have won, I wouldn't be here. And it became really real what war and fighting is about. For me, that's my first memory. For someone else, it's their parents fighting. It's that conflict. And that they didn't get along, and they felt like as a child that they were to blame for all the misery that their parents were going through. And so why are we living this way? Why are we not questioning all these things that we were told? Like, I'm at a point where I'm like, thank you, ancestors, for what you've given me. but it's time to break free. It's time to, like, I want to create a community platform where any time of day we can gather and talk, and people can find each other based on what they care about, not their title, not where they live, not how much money they make, none of these things. But let's say, somebody gave birth and they're having PTSD. Now I know what it's like, and they want to talk to someone else. How do you find someone else? How do you, to the question of loneliness before, you feel alone because you don't think anyone else is going through what you're going through. And people are. And so the more that we can connect with ourselves and really do our inner work, and only then when we become healthy and balanced within ourselves, because otherwise human history repeats itself. A lot of people think, women are these or men are these. We have masculine and feminine within each of us. And we need to get that harmony within each of us and get that balance with each of us, because we're not going to find justice and fairness in a corrupt system. We have to step out of this corrupt system and build. We need the bridge builders. We need the architects of humanity. We need the people with the courage to even start your own garden. It's not about like taking on a big task or being there for someone else. I don't know if that's giving or taking, because you get something out of all these exchanges. And so to me, if we can change our mindset or shift it from seeing everything as a problem, which is actually a very male part of our thinking, to creating more balance and saying, okay, this is a problem, this is a challenge. 2020 is not what we expected. But okay, we're here. What's possible? What's our opportunity? What can I go do for myself? Did you have a question before, Leslie, or a comment?
Well, I have to take you back a bit. Flicka had talked about being authentic self, and I remember, I just wanted to comment to Flicka. I'm not sure when you met her, but Flicka, it was 1998, and Ayelet and I were both in consulting with different companies, and it was not a good match for me, this company that I was in. And one of my colleagues complained about me to Ayelet and told her that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't know if Ayelet remembers that, but she complained to Ayelet that I wore my heart on my sleeve. And Ayelet's comment to her was, "What's wrong with that?" So she's been promoting being your authentic self, or supporting that for, gosh, over 30 years now, probably more, probably for your life. But I just thought that was interesting. When you asked the question, I remembered that story. So thank you for supporting me, Ayelet.
Always, Leslie, always. I'd love for you guys.
I was thinking.
Oh, go ahead.
So sorry, Ayelet. I was thinking as well, like you made some comments about masks, right? The masks we wear and the things that we do to kind of take our minds off, whether it's addictions and everything else, to take our minds off what's real. And I think that so many times we try to fix things with Band-Aids versus really looking at the foundations. But that's the hard work, isn't it? It's like really trying to redefine those stories from the past that impact how you do things in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we look at it, like the patient is on the journey, and that's a lot of our systems. And we've got life support and nurses and doctors coming at it, and blood spurting, and we're putting on one Band-Aid and it's spurting out. And I had this conversation, I don't know how long ago, with someone about how human history repeats itself. And having been associated with a lot of trauma from my childhood, I did a lot of exploration around different things around the world, from cults to what happened in Cambodia and China and Argentina. and the Holocaust and the native tribes as well. I've always been like researching it and seeing like how much trauma there is. And then I look at it and I'm like, why does human history keeps repeating itself? It's because we've got this division that we think that we're not looking at the root cause and saying, how do we create systems for the vast majority of humanity, not the few? Turn on your TV right now, you'll see these statistics. And those statistics, those metrics that we have accepted from business about efficiency, productivity, they're killing so many of us because we're not getting to the root cause of what's important. And we've created this myth about the fact that we need to have work-life balance as though we're two separate people. You know, there's professional self and then there's personal self. And these two people are different when in essence, we're one whole person. And that's what we're trying to get at is that wholeness. And we are putting Band-Aids because when we just have a problem mindset, which is a 20th century mindset, we haven't stepped into the 21st century. And the 21st century is about an opportunity mindset. And I'm talking about the mainstream because there are people in the edges doing amazing things who have stepped into this. But the vast majority of us continue with compliance, continue thinking that someone else has our answers, that someone else knows what's best for us. And it's kind of funny because if I did a survey, I would find out that most of us don't even know what's best for us. And so I don't want to live in a world of competition where I need to take somebody down. And I've lived it because when I was working, that's what we did. We had to be number one in market share. We had to be the number 2 revenue generating country. We had to win, 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 win. But at the end, in a win-lose scenario, nobody wins because at some point we change the deck chairs on a sinking ship and someone else with their ego and control comes in and tells us what it is. How did we get to a point where we give our trust to people who are untrustworthy? You know, if you look at statistics right now, you will see that the people who got wealthy since the pandemic started, they've increased 1/3 of their wealth, the billionaires. And yet people are living on the streets. People don't know where their meals are going to come from. People are jumping off buildings. People are walking into the forest and ending their life right now. This has to stop. And the only way that we can stop it is by adopting a healthy mindset and talking openly and unmasking ourselves. And I mean it not in the physical mask, but really unmasking ourselves and connecting heart to heart to each other. When was the last time you asked somebody, not in passing, how are you doing? You know, now that we're not like we have to be distant physically, we can be so close heart to heart. We can reach out to people in different ways. And that's the beauty. Like, you know, I'm seeing all these things about the social dilemma right now. And yes, the way it was constructed, the way social media has been constructed is the same way these systems have been constructed. But if we have like heartfelt people creating the real social networks where we could connect heart to heart and have open conversation and look at like, I want to do something in this field. I want to do something here. And people who don't know each other can have conversations and can feel connected. We will not have loneliness. We would not be in this state. But when we're constantly putting on Band-Aids and fixing problems, just like the UN SDG goals, I wish instead of solving humanity's biggest problems, which is what the stated goals are, it would be addressing humanity's biggest opportunities. We need to change the narrative. We need to change the stories to what's possible, because otherwise we're just changing the deck chairs and we're fighting all the time. And why do we came to this planet for that? I don't think so. We are so powerful. We are such amazing beings. And whatever art you choose, whichever way you choose to connect with people, so much is possible right now.
So can I just make a point about, because Priya said something about people are afraid of the hard work. And I know it's something you and I have talked about a lot, but, you know, I equate it, you know, going back to the gym for the first time. And, working out and feeling so painful, and I can only do so many reps, so much weight, and so many minutes on the treadmill or the bike or whatever it was, and that hurt, right? Because your body is not used to it. But over time, it becomes so easy, and it actually fuels you. And if you've never worked out at a gym before, let me equate it to when you learned how to ride a bicycle, right? Like your parents needed to be there with you. You had the training wheels. You gained the confidence after you fell down a couple times. If you're lucky, maybe you never fell down, but your balance wasn't great. And all of a sudden it got easier as you did it. But we don't ever become that way until we actually put that work in.
Yeah, and there's an elder called Plato. Anybody hear of him? And he advised us to just begin. It doesn't matter, again, it doesn't matter where you are in life, how old you are. It's the key is to begin. We've been given everything. We live on this beautiful natural planet that sustains itself, but for some reason we need to now be more generous with it and not take it for granted. And we need to begin to understand what we're putting into ourselves. And the wisdom is here. I believe that everything is here to be discovered. And that's why we don't have to fight each other anymore in conferences and who's the expert and who knows the most and who's the best and, making the list. It's really about our ability to know ourselves. Another great elder to tap into, Socrates, who advised us to know thyself. And I don't go around quoting all of it, but I think that everything is here to be discovered. And when you wake up with joy, when you could let go, Flicka does these, I don't know if you're still doing them on Facebook, but she does these sound healings that just whenever I need, I tune into them and they just lift my spirit. And so if we can look at different places where we can lift our spirits and offer with generosity and compassion, but first to ourselves, because we learn to trust everyone else before we learn to trust ourselves. And we need to learn how to trust ourselves, because if that's how we know, like it's someone else questioning, like Leslie, that she needs to be a certain way. Well, who is anybody to tell any one of us how to be? Nobody has that right unless we give them the power to do that. And that's a big piece of what we're doing right now in terms of our work. It's an issue of unlearning. It's not about, we're here on Earth School to unlearn things that don't serve us anymore, and then be able to play with joy and embrace the things that do lift our spirits. So I'd love to end this and thank everybody who's joined us, and hope you can be back again for more conversation next week and grow our community. If you're available, we'll be posting more information online soon. But maybe we can, me, I put everybody on this spot. Maybe Flicka, Priya, and Leslie, maybe you could give people some of your thoughts based on this conversation. And it doesn't have to be associated with the book.
Well, I want to kind of bring forth that one way we can, one source that we can go to, which you kind of alluded to, Ayelet, is nature, and how nature communicates and cooperates with itself, and how there is not this angst over expressing just a donkey being a donkey. I mean, my donkey does not worry about being a donkey. She just goes about her donkey life, and my goats. So I learn from them. I really do. They give me hope, and there's a solace in being around them. So nature is a huge, as you have shown so many times, Ayelet, is really our go-to as far as recognizing our beauty inside.
Absolutely.
And that's all I have to say. Right now, I mean, I could go on, but, Leslie, I throw it to you, honey.
I don't know how I can follow that. I thought this was a wonderful conversation, and my head's spinning right now, so I don't have much to add, but I've got lots of things to think about, and I would love to join everybody again.
Thanks, Leslie. So good to see you.
Well, I can't wait to read the book.
What are you expecting from it, Priya?
You're never a dull moment with you, Ayelet. So I'm looking forward to it. I've known Ayelet since I was in my 20s, and she's been an inspiration since. And I'm a lot older than 20 now.
Tim, would you like to wrap it up for us?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to check and make sure, because Catherine's on the phone. She's been messaging me that she keeps getting off, so I didn't know if she wanted to unmute and share something with us real quick.
You are one of my mentors. We are like kindred spirits. I feel like you speak what's inside of me, and it's so amazing to see someone doing that, because I've always thought of myself as a little odd, especially as a child going to Catholic school, where I would be a bit rebellious against all these beliefs that didn't make sense to me on 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And I would get in trouble. But yes, all these societal norms, as you mentioned, need to be questioned. We need to embrace questioning the status quo. Our education systems have failed us miserably on that end and many other areas. But that in particular has had a significant impact, because life is about choices. And we are constantly told how to behave, what to wear, how to talk, how not to do. It's insane. So I am a fierce advocate of quality education. And this is something that we want to bring to the schools. We have to. You don't find it anywhere, at least the places where I've been. We work with public schools and community centers. You hardly ever see this kind of information be brought to the classroom. And it is time to change that, because it is obvious what it has done to us and what it continues to do. It perpetuates generation after generation. You see the same pattern. And then we still complain about the problems that we are contributing to. It's just awful. So I thank you for publishing this book. I cannot wait to read it I'm going to start another book club again. I haven't set out the time to do that, but it's coming again. I've been reading a lot. So you're going to be our guest pretty soon with the students after I read the book.
Oh, that sounds great, Catherine. And Catherine's one of our amazing pioneers on the planet that's doing so much for kids and transforming the education system. So she gives me hope every day, like everyone else on this call, about what's possible. So it would be a real honor, Catherine, and I hope that the title will pass.
Well, yeah, this actually brings you closer to a lot of the students that actually are very angry, and they speak that way, and they say F this, F that, and what can we do? We have to listen. We have to give them the space to have, give them a safe space to have these kinds of conversations, let their frustrations out, because imagine, I didn't know how lucky I was until I met Generation C and the millennials. They really have they're struggling right now a lot, much more than we did. And we need to be open and let them be themselves. And if they're angry, they need to say the F word, let them be. But it's not the best language, of course, but it has to come out somehow. Yes.
Well,
But
I just want to, thank everybody for being here, and thank you, Ayelet, more than anything, for letting me be a part of your life and this journey with you. One thing that I told Ayelet was I accidentally couldn't remember if I ordered the book. So I ordered it 3 times plus a Kindle version. So, so what I would like to offer is anybody that's watching today, especially if you're in the US, because I don't want to get into astronomical shipping charges. But if you're in the US and you'd like a copy of the book and you really just financially can't afford it, just message me. You know where to find me, either on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever. And if there's more than one person, tomorrow morning I'll just randomly pick somebody and send a copy out to you, because if this book is for you, we want to get it in your hands.
Thanks, Tim, so much. And I don't know, I had a baby and I haven't been able to touch it yet, apart from electronically. If you have the book handy, could you show me what it looks like?
Well, I told you I wasn't feeling well, and I forgot to bring it upstairs when I came up.
Tim texted me yesterday and said, I got a copy of the book. And I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to hold my baby.
I remembered my computer, my camera, my headphones, everything. I forgot the book.
So just sending love out to everybody. Hope you can join us next week. Linda Polio will be with us as well. She wrote an amazing book. If you're looking for an inspirational, visionary book, she wrote an amazing book that I mention a lot in the 3 books called Trusting the Currents. And if you want to jump on the call with us, would love to have you. We can have 10 people. And I'm going to come up with some ways also to be more giving with the books in the future. But writing 3 books at the same time has been a lot. So hang in there with me. I'm not doing anything traditionally. And if you want to reach out and talk and be real and raw, I'm here to listen and to help as much as possible. Thank you for being who you are, and hope to touch base soon.
Well, and I just want to let you know that Trudy just commented on Facebook that she was going to purchase 10 copies for people who want and can't purchase their own copies.
Wow. So thanks, True. That is so sweet. This is how we start. We spark each other. And those are the stories that I would love to be able to capture about the impact that we're having on each other. So thank you. And I encourage you to search everyone and find what you need by questioning what it is that you actually need, not what someone told you you need. Thank you.
thank you so much. I love the way you talk. This is my chair